everybody, what's going on? Hopefully you're having a good Wednesday evening so far. My name is Tom Young. I'm the host of the Tom Talks Baseball podcast. Of course, you can find us in a number of different places. You got Tom Talks Baseball podcast on Facebook, which is where you might be watching this right now. And if so, thank you for liking us there. You can also find us now on YouTube. Just look up Tom Talks Baseball podcast there. And also, we are broadcasting live as well on 100.9, the Eagles YouTube page, KXGL-FM. You can watch us live there as well. You can also find us on Twitter at Tom Talks BBP. Major League edition of the show tonight. Going to talk about a number of things. Rangers fans, if you're chiming in tonight, I want to hear from you on Fernando Tatis Jr. Of course, he made some news a couple nights ago, kind of a big thing about unwritten rules. We're going to talk about that a bit. Head hunting of Mike Trout, some thoughts about that. I also put together some comparisons of stats from last year to this year. Has baseball really changed because of the way the season has gone? We'll see if the numbers look a little different or look the same. We'll see how that goes. We'll talk some hot teams, some cold teams, and, of course, whatever is on your mind. This is another interactive podcast, meaning whatever you say or do may direct the way the show goes, and you can be just as much a part of the show as I am, and just as much a part of the show as this guy is, my partner in crime, David Lovejoy, joining us again this evening. David, how you doing, man? Thanks for joining us on this
I
Wednesday.
am not doing too bad, Tom. You've been on vacation, haven't you?
I have been on vacation. I've been, taking another week off here. Use it or lose it. You know how it goes with this vacation time. I tell you what, though, I'm a little stuffy. I went out. I did some disc golf today with a couple friends of mine at Thompson Park, and had a good time doing it. But man, by about the 16th, 17th hole, I just got this massive sneezing fit.
Wow!
I don't know what it was I came across, but something around there said, "I'm going to mess you up." And I got home. I showered. I got it all off me. And I haven't really blown my nose or anything, but I've been kind of stuffy ever since.
Wow.
So the allergies kicked my butt earlier today. But and I feel a little tired and fatigued because of it. But we're going to power through this because we got a lot of good stuff going on. But I haven't seen you all week because I've been on vacation. How are you doing?
Oh, man, I cannot complain. First off, I want to say last week we got to do the Boots and Badges thing on Saturday night at the Sod Poodle home, Hodgetown.
Yes.
And just a beautiful facility, a great game, a different game than we saw last year where it was a lot of home runs and the fire department really just kind of got up and walked away. This one went to the bottom of the final inning for the firefighters to come back. But it was just a great time, raised a lot of money for the Coffee Memorial Blood Center and the 100 Club of the Texas Panhandle.
Yeah, last year it was like 26-17 or something crazy like that. And this year it was like 7-6.
Yeah, exactly. And, there were a couple of home runs hit by the police department, by the fire department. But the guy last year, what was it, Hanson? Sergeant Hanson or Lieutenant Hanson. I mean, this guy, he hit 2 grand slams, I think, last year, 2 or 3, 2-run shots, 3-run shots. He was their offense. So they devised a strategy. They weren't going to let him beat him this year. And they kind of pitched away from him, made him chase some pitches, popped up. But great scrap by both teams.
Yeah, and there was a pretty good crowd out there. They did things a little differently this year because of COVID. That they had certain times set up to purchase tickets and then just like last minute at the gate if you wanted. It weren't very many opportunities, but despite that, still a really good crowd and a lot of fun out there. And I want to say thanks again to Coffee Memorial Blood Center and Suzanne Talley for inviting us back to do the PA. Also, Joe Corbacero and company with the Sod Poodles for making sure that we stayed on track up there. And once again, just a little plug for Coffee Memorial. They need a lot of help right now with donations. Just because COVID's here doesn't mean that they have stopped. They still need blood donations to help out others. 7500 Wallace Boulevard. Go on by there. thegiftoflife.org, another place to go to set up an appointment and get in there. It doesn't take very long to donate blood at all. And plasma, too. They do plasma there as well.
Yeah.
Well, let's do some Major League Baseball talk. And as always, David, this is an interactive podcast. We are sitting in our respective houses right now talking baseball, and we want you to be a part of the show. So if you like anything we're talking about or want to take it to a different place, we don't care. Let us know what's on your mind tonight, and we appreciate you chiming in. But one big thing that happened a couple days ago, David, was Fernando Tatis Jr., hitting a grand slam late in the game against the Texas Rangers. It was on a 3-0 pitch. The Rangers were up the Padres were up 10-3 in this ball game. And Tatis is up with the bases loaded, 3-0 pitch. More than likely, you're thinking he's just going to take it. Apparently, he was given a sign by manager Jace Tingler to take it, but Tatis said, I'm going to swing away, and I'm going to hit an opposite field missile out of the ballpark and hit a grand slam. And the reaction to this, David, has been rather interesting because, right off the bat, he kind of got thrown under the bus a bit by his manager, saying that, oh, yeah, publicly, he missed a sign. His own manager kind of – and so the Rangers were upset. I could see why they were, just because they were the other team and they were getting their butt kicked. But the grand scheme of things, David – do you think Fernando Tatis Jr. did anything wrong, or do you think this is just being overblown?
The one thing, I love baseball. But the one thing that bothers me probably above all other things about my sport is this unwritten rule stuff. That you can't do this. You can't flip a bat. You can't trot around the base. And then you get self-serving people who think they're the guardians of the game, and they get to dole out and what's wrong, right? Chris Woodward, the manager of the Rangers, if you don't want somebody hitting a 3-0 home run on your team against your team, play better. Baseball is the only sport where we tell you we're going to pay you $1 million to hit, run, and field, but if they're ahead of you, you got to lighten up. Let me ask you this: you're up 7-1 on a team. You're on the mound, Tom. Are you going to throw BP to them? No, you're going to go
try to get him out. Yeah.
Last night you had a guy trying to walk up on a no-hitter. Did he say, well, we're shutting them out. Let me lighten up a little bit. Let a couple of them on base. This isn't third-grade softball. And that unwritten rule that, he deserves it, that's bull. If you don't want him, the kid said he missed the sign. And if you don't want him to hit a 3-0 home run on you, make better pitches. Get him out. Jimmy Johnson used to have a great saying when he was at the University of Miami. They'd run the score up on anybody. I want them to get better. These are young players I got out here playing. Play hard. That's why they're on the field. Don't play hard. Don't get on the field. And baseball needs to get over itself. There used to be a unwritten and written rule that a man of color couldn't play Major League Baseball. Got over that one, didn't we? So these unwritten rules and these etiquette, and then comes along the guard keepers, McCain and guys like that who think it's their job to say that wasn't very baseballish. Bullcrap. Kid did nothing wrong. Good on him.
Yeah, and you know what? The way baseball is, obviously not a timed game. So who knows? Rangers could have had a big 9-run inning or something and came back and won the game. And if you're sitting dead red on something at 3-0 and the pitcher just wants to throw a meatball, then, why should you take it? I like what Anthony Rizzo said on Twitter. He said, well, if we're supposed to take on 3-0, I think in response, the pitcher should throw us a guaranteed fastball on 3-1. It's like how come they get this, supposed unwritten rule advantage because they fell behind 3-0 and just the situation of the game. Don't fall behind 3-0 if you don't like it. Don't fall behind 10-3 if you don't like it. And the part that I get on Tingler's side, he missed the sign. I get that. But maybe what you do, instead of throwing him under the bus publicly, address it in the clubhouse and publicly say, hey, the dude's a beast, which he is right now. He's like first or second in like every category that matters.
11 home runs. He's beating Mike Trout right now in home run.
28 RBI. He's up there in stolen bases too, which we'll talk about that in just a second. But Corey Wells checking us out tonight. Corey, thanks for watching. Unwritten rules are unwritten for a reason. They are not rules. It is a joke about what about in the 80s or 90s when dude was going to intentionally walk and threw a strike down the heart. They're unwritten rules. Bunting. Let's say last night we saw the Kenta Mieda almost throw a no-hitter, got into the ninth. What if a guy came up there and bunted and got on base? That's one of those unwritten rules too. Well, at the time, the game was 3-0.
Yeah.
They're trying to win a ball game.
I'm still playing.
They're still playing the ball game.
You talk about the runs. It was either Saturday or Sunday. The A's went into the ninth inning, 7 or 8 down, and they won the ball game because they played the game.
Yeah, they played the game, and the Giants. Yeah, they
played in sports, and I've got no fun out of just kicking somebody's teeth as playing a sport. But
I think we're having a little issue with David's connection here. David, see if you can hardwire that computer. We're having a kind of a hard time. You're cutting out on us a little bit there. Let's see. Corey, what else does Corey have to say here? Okay. We all came here to win, end of story. Yeah, pretty much. He came here to win. And if you're up by 7 and you want to go up by 11 because a guy threw you a meatball down the middle of the plate, that's more on him and not on you. And in the end, Padres won the game. That's what matters. And so, I think it's a silly one. You're trying to win the ball game because there's no time limit in baseball. Rangers could have had an 11-run inning and came back and won that game. What happens? Are we saying the same thing if on that 3-0 pitch he swung and missed it? No. Or are we just upset because he was good on that pitch? I don't. And if Woodward wants to get mad, well, I can understand that. I think he was just a little butthurt that his team was getting dominated.
Hey, Tom.
I think David's having some issue here. We'll see if we can get David figured out here in a little bit. Maybe leave and come back. You're cutting in and out on us here.
Well, yeah, I'm hard driven. I'm wired in, but you're doing the same thing on the other end over here. You're freezing.
I'm freezing. Okay. Hopefully, if you're watching, it's not too bad, but we might be stepping on each other a little bit. Looks like we're having some sort of issue here with our connections this evening. Brought to you by Suddenlink. How about that? So if you have any more thoughts on Fernando Tatis, let us know. In the end, I think it was great. And the cool thing I thought was a lot of players came to his defense on Twitter, and even pitchers came to his defense on Twitter. So the players are saying, hey, this is what baseball is nowadays. If you want to try to progress the game, if you want to try to make it exciting again, let's get rid of some of these old stinker rules that are boring. And, what's more fun from a fan standpoint, David? Taking a 3-0 pitch down the middle for a strike or hitting a grand slam?
Smashing it. I mean, and this kid Tatis, he enjoys the game. You see he's having fun. He makes some great fielding plays, and he's just as pumped. And the idea, you heard a couple of players like Billy Ripken saying, I came from a baseball family. He didn't? Tatis Jr. didn't come from a baseball. What are you talking about? The kid's having fun. It's a different way. Things evolve. I mean, football, baseball were my sports coming up as a kid, and you can see how the game's evolved and changed in both sports. And to enjoy the sport, you better be ready to change too, because athletes and how they perform changes. And you just got to see the good. I mean, you hear a lot of bashing of the NBA right now. It gets on my nerves sometimes because it is just 5-man one-on-one. But when you get to this part of the season, it's the best ball you can watch. Same with hockey. I'm not a big regular season hockey fan because I just don't want to see some goon who's hired not to skate and score, but just to lean on people. You get to the playoffs, they're playing fast, they're playing strong. It's about scoring goals, and that's what you want to see, the excitement. Baseball with these unwritten rules, you're going to kill yourself. You're chasing people off because now this kid's being ran around like he did something wrong.
Yeah, it's kind of ridiculous that's how, this kind of started out. Now, the good news is, like I was saying, a lot of players and others, with microphones in front of them have come to Tatis Jr.'s defense and saying, hey, play your game, kid. Like, what was it? Was it a couple years ago where the playoff slogan or whatever, or the season slogan was let the kids play?
Let the kids play.
Well, guess what he did? He played. He's playing pretty darn well, and he is a very bright spot for the San Diego Padres. And if you don't like the fact that he's taken grand slams opposite field on you on a 3-0 count down 10-3, maybe get a better team or don't throw a meatball. Because I tell you what's going to happen now, David. Next time Tatis is 3-0, he's probably walking. They're not going to throw him a strike because you know it. Or at the very least, you're going to throw him a bender or something to try to get him off that fastball, because now this, like, someone else hits a 3-0 home run, you don't think about it, but this just became a big national story because of the timing of it. I think advantage Tatis Jr. going forward. He's got a 3-0 count in the future. You're going to be a little careful with him. Maybe you're going to put him on base. Now the Padres got another base runner.
And that's the intricacies of baseball that I love. This is a sport that measures down to the millimeter on balls and strikes, and they follow this letter to the T, and this is how you have to do it. There's rules on how you wind up to throw a pitch. There's rules, but then when it comes to this, the unwritten rules. No, I don't want to hear that. You've had time to write some rules, okay? You could have wrote some rules by now. So don't hit that kid because he hit one. He wants to dance down first lane, or he wants to walk, or he wants to bat flip, or he hit it 3-0. Don't hate on his game. You pitch better. Throw better strike.
I saw another tweet, and I can't give credit, unfortunately, as I can't remember where it came from. But, you got people saying, don't swing at 3-0 when you have a big lead. Don't hit that home run. And those same people were saying, well, we're not going to pay you this much money in arbitration because you didn't hit your home run quota. So I was like, that was kind of interesting, So, Tatis Jr., good on you, man. And I think a lot of people are with us on that. Play the game, the game's never over. There's no time limit in baseball. Big leads can be given up easily, especially nowadays with the long ball being as much of a part of it as it is. So if you want to swing 3-0 and try to knock in multiple runs when you got the chance to do it, go for it. And that's exactly what he did. And the Padres kind of scuffling a little bit, but they got a couple wins that they're playing a little bit better. But their division just got a heck of a lot tougher, and we're going to talk about that here in just a moment. Want to thank Corey and others for watching tonight. If you got anything you'd like to say about what we're doing, you want to join the conversation, go ahead and do so. We're on the Tom Talks Baseball Podcast Facebook page. We are also on the Tom Talks Baseball Podcast YouTube channel. Just look up Tom Talks Baseball Podcast there. Also, the KXGL FM YouTube channel. You can find us there as well. Well, Tatis Jr., you could say, David, maybe one of the faces of Major League Baseball right now, or at the very least becoming one. Another guy that for sure is up there and doesn't benefit as much because of where he plays and the fact that the rest of his team isn't as good as Mike Trout. And Mike Trout's having another stellar season outside of Tatis. Trout's leading the league in home runs again. He's doing his thing on a mediocre Angels team. But yesterday, an interesting situation with Mike Trout playing the Giants late in the game, going against Sean Anderson, I believe. And whether there was any intent behind this or not, I don't know. But twice, fastballs were aimed at Mike Trout's head, where if he did not move, he would have been beamed in the head. And he was able to get out of the way of both of them. But Mike Trout, after the second one, a guy who doesn't show a lot of emotion on the field, just was kind of like, well, what the hell are you doing, man? And the umpires got together in the end. I don't think anybody got ejected. And I don't even know if there was any intent. Managers Joe Madden and Gabe Kapler both say there was no intent behind it. But let's talk about this for a moment. So, if you want to go back to unwritten rules, David, of course, one of them is don't throw at the other team's head.
Yeah.
I mean, and not for obvious reasons. It could be career-ending stuff. We saw it with Giancarlo Stanton a number of years ago. There was a matchup of the Cubs and Cardinals last night with Ponce de Leon and Victor Caratini. And AAA, Caratini hit a line drive off of de Leon's face and just about ended his career / life. And it's amazing that De Leon came back and has actually pitched yesterday for the Cardinals at the major league level. But whether it was intentional or not, David, do you think there should be some sort of automatic ejection or fine put in place if multiple pitches go to the direction of a player's head? Of course, this was Mike Trout, so it's getting a lot of attention. But if it was anyone else, like, should there be some sort of automatic, hey, even though it's not intentional, you obviously are, this is dangerous right now. Should we do something about that, or is this just a one-time deal and let it go?
Well, we were talking about unwritten rules today anyway, and it's about how the style of the game has changed. Guys want to put on all that football armor, go up to the plate and hang out over the top of it and try to cut their zone down. And back in the day, you got a pitcher like Bob Gibson, Tom Seaver. They said, this is my part of my plate. You can have all this plate here, but that part of my plate, that's mine. And it was usually inside the batter. Back in got hit, you got hit. Unless that's a wild pitch or you lost it. I don't think he threw 2 wild pitches. He threw at him. If you're going to hit him in the backside. Get it over with. Don't just throw it. Hit him. Get it over with. Show you're angry. But Mike Trout is a hell of a man, because I'd probably still be beating that guy down. I'd still be rolling it like a cheap cigar. You throw twice at me, and I've never seen Mike Trout do anything to incite anybody. I've never seen Mike Trout bat flip or showboat, but just because you know who he is and who the hitter is, you're going to put his life on the line. That's junk. I think it should be an automatic 1-game suspension for the pitcher, and I think the manager should be sat down for 3 games.
Oh, the manager should get involved too.
Yeah,
even if it's unintentional. Just like in this case, let's say it's loss of control. The guy has no idea how to throw an inside strike that day. Well, maybe don't throw one, and that's what I think. But even if that's the case, the manager should be involved too.
And it's the major leagues. Very rarely do you find somebody who's that bad who can't control that pitch. Somebody's going to say, don't throw that in the game. You can't throw that. The catcher's not going to call it. So I just don't buy that out of the blue. This guy who's 90 mile an hour throws 2 up toward the noggin. Accidentally, it slipped. Okay.
Okay. Yeah. If that's really the case, maybe you're not major league material.
What are you doing here?
Yeah, what are you doing here? Yeah.
You better hope the Mexican League got some spots, because you ain't playing here this winter.
Yeah, not this time.
I just don't buy it, and it's jealousy. I mean, the guy, that's the big difference between Tatis and Trout. Tatis is on the precipice of being a huge star, and he's going to be, because he's got the personality and he's dynamic. Trout, 5 years ago, was this same kid. Trout doesn't really care for the public, so he doesn't do it. He doesn't interact a lot. You don't see him around. That's his choice. But you're going to see the ascension, how 2 stars ascended, and where they go with their careers in these 2 guys.
I think Corey is thinking along the lines that you and I are, David. 2-seam and 4-seams don't slip. Curves and sliders do. If curveballs, we've seen that before, David, where they go at someone's head. And obviously, those are pitches you're trying to throw low or outside usually. And with the grip you put on those to try to get maximum spin rate, one's going to occasionally get away. And fortunately, because of the speed they're going in, the batter has ample opportunity to try to get out of the way. But fastballs, either your mechanics are god-awful or there's intent. And, and in that game, I must say, the Giants were winning 8-1 in the 9th inning. It was near the end of the game. And earlier in the game, Evan Longoria got beamed. So I don't know if this was response to Evan Longoria. Like I said, both managers, Madden and Kapler, don't seem to think it was. But it's just interesting that two fastballs both whiz in that area of Mike Trout. And Corey's correct. This internet tonight, for whatever reason, just is thumbs down. And we apologize. The best way we can do this is we both are plugged in, which we both are. We just got to hope that the juice we're getting through our systems is working. And I guess tonight, for some reason, unexpectedly, we're having some problems. So bear with us. We're going to try to get through this the best we can. Tristan checking us out tonight, man. Tristan, thanks for watching the show. There's that internet again. I'm trying to get your message up there so we can see it. Hey, guys. There we go. Hey, Tristan checking us out. And just like Corey's doing, anything you guys want to say about what we're talking about, feel free to chime in. Hopefully the connection stays good enough so you can actually hear what we're saying. Once again, that's out of our control, but we do apologize for that. One other thing. Go for it.
No, go ahead.
Oh, okay. One other thing I want to talk about real quick. Let's do some hot teams real quick. We got a few hot teams here in the league, David. And
that you just read my mind, because I was thinking just hot teams, hot players. This 60-game schedule, we knew it was going to. Honest, we knew that was going to happen. It's going to be like, who can get down the hallway first?
Yeah.
And the funny thing about it is, if you have a bad week, boy, it looks bad on you. But you could turn that around. I mean, the Rangers after Sunday had went in and taken the series against Colorado. They look like a whole new team. Well, then they turn around and get San Diego, which is a home-and-home situation. They played them at home in Arlington. Now, tonight, they start the series out on the West Coast, and they're probably going to be hitting more people because they're going to give up more home runs. That's just what they do in Texas. That they've never built a solid pitching staff. But some things that are shocking right now, team-wise, Tampa Bay. Yeah, Snell's going to have to go on the disability list for a little bit, but they're cobbling together. They're playing some decent baseball, and that's I didn't see that coming. I thought the Toronto Blue Jays, who are learning how to play better, they're learning how to play well. I thought they'd be the number 2 team. So I'm surprised Tampa Bay is solid. The Sox are hanging tight. Cleveland has finally said, well, we can pitch a little bit. But Minnesota looks like they're coming back as the real deal. So no surprises there. In the West, Oakland is just always that team nobody gives a damn about until they go on a winning streak and start winning. And that's what they're doing now. Texas, as bad as they're playing, they're in 3rd place. They're like 2 games out or something. My Braves are doing it. We all got to be surprised by the Miami Marlins. If anybody on this chat in the last 4 months said anything about the Marlins being decent, I'll give you $1 million because you didn't. Nobody did. Shocking though, on the other side, Washington in very last place, the World Series champions. Another shocker to me, this will take Tom by surprise.
Okay.
The only squad I lean on, and I like them, and they're lovable losers, I didn't think they had it this year, especially after losing their manager. The Cubs are really playing decent baseball. They really are. They're getting some just surprising pitching. The last couple of series, they've gotten into that ugly bad habit of stranding runners. But if they can stay away from that, and you Darvish giving those innings. Mills, unfortunately, had a beautiful game he pitched on Monday night. Just quite sad he didn't get the win on that. Cubs look great. The Cubs could do something. Everything else, the only other team that I'm just going to say that we're a year behind. Last year, we were all over the Rockies. Blackman now, he's almost hitting 500. The Rockies are 4 games out, and they look great. I didn't pick them this year because of last year, how they did me wrong. So that surprises me, Colorado. I thought Arizona would be there. My wild card pick was the Padres. They're playing well. They got to learn how to play. These kids got to still learn how to play. So those are surprises. Seeing Colorado playing great baseball seeing the Cubs leading their division. St. Louis, they must have, I don't believe in voodoo, but somebody got a voodoo doll on St. Louis because they're just beat up.
They beat the snot out of the Cubs early on. They're playing a doubleheader today. You talked about Alec Mills, and he just got shelled. He got shelled so badly, he gave up a grand slam to the fourth batter. That's all you need to know. That game was over before it even got started. But, the Dodgers are playing well. The Astros are finally, after a slow start, getting on track. The Diamondbacks, we were talking about Dodgers, Padres, and Rockies. Well, the Padres kind of cooled off a touch, and now here come the Diamondbacks, who early on in the year, just like a couple years ago, struggling to hit. Terrible offense. But then the offense started clicking. Starlin Marte's getting going with those guys down there. Ketel Marte's a darn good player still. And now the D-backs are on a roll. And just like that, the NL West just got a little bit tougher. Corey was kind of surprised about Tampa Bay. Didn't think they were going to be there. And Tampa Bay is one of those teams where I want to compare them to the Spurs a little bit in the NBA, where like the last 5 years with the Spurs were like, this is the end. They're not going to do it this year. They're not going to make the playoffs. And then they just kept making the playoffs. Tampa Bay, you look at that team, you're like, they're not going to – they don't have any money. They can't bring in big-name guys. It's a hodgepodge team, but yet they seem to get it done year in and year out ever since Joe Madden was there. And even after he left, they still find ways to get it done. So Tampa Bay doing really well there in the AL West. And to the Cubs real quick, they're off to a great start, but they have some seriously glaring problems that are going to rear their ugly head if they can't get them figured out quickly. And we know the bullpen, that's actually been a little bit better of late. Offensively, they suck. They suck a lot. Javier Baez can't do anything. Chris Bryant can't do anything. Wilson Contreras is striking out at like 40%. The only star on that team doing anything, kinda, is Rizzo. Thank goodness for Ian Happ. Thank goodness for Jason Kipnis. Thank goodness for Jason Hayward. The rest of that offense is a steaming pile, and it needs to get fixed immediately or they ain't doing anything. They need to adjust their approach at the plate. I think I saw they were number 1 in the league in swings and misses at pitches in the zone and top 5 in the league at swinging outside the zone, meaning they're one of the best teams in the league at giving the pitchers bonus strikes. They got some serious problems, and they benefited from a fairly easy schedule, playing teams not at full strength. Right now is a good opportunity. They should be beating up on the Cardinals, but they've split the first 4. They got a game that's starting here in a little bit, and because of the Cardinals' COVID situation, the Cubs have had to change their team around, and they got Ozole starting, who probably wouldn't be sniffing a major league roster right now had it been playing a regular season, so that's a disadvantage there. But Cubs got some glaring problems, and they need to get them fixed real quick because other teams like the Dodgers are looking very, very good right now. David Bodie, too. Thank goodness David Bodie can hit home runs in the pinch hit role, because if he hasn't, all of a sudden this little slump we're in just became that much bigger of a slump. But there's my Cubs rant. Sorry about that. The record's nice. They beat up on some bad teams when they needed to, but lately their problems are as bright as anything can be, and they're getting exposed. And guys that are supposed to be MVP candidates need to start playing like it, or they're going to fall fast, and they're starting to fall right now. Teams that have fallen or free falling, how about the Red Sox? Now, they won this afternoon. They beat the Phillies 6-3, but they had lost 9 in a row before then. The Mariners, we kind of expected to be poor, but the Tigers, after that really nice start, we were talking about them, really good hard hit percentage, looked like they were maybe turning a corner. I mean, granted, we weren't expecting a lot out of them anyway, but because of this expanded playoff, David, maybe they were going to make the playoffs this year. Maybe they were going to be number 16 or number 8 in the American League, whatever you want to call it. But they've kind of come back to earth a little bit. And but the Red Sox, yikes. What's going on in Boston, David? What's happening there?
I mean, you got Chris Sale's out for the season, of course. some other nagging injuries. You trade away Mookie. Man, I know you had some pieces, but you traded away the catalyst. As Reggie used to say, I'm the straw that stirs the drink. Without me, it doesn't go. And Boston looks old and slow, which they didn't look just last year. And there's nobody you can trot out there on the mound that is going to consistently give you 5 good innings. They're just around there. I mean, losing Price, Sale being beat up has left the Sox in a very, very vulnerable position. And they're going to take some butt whippings for this season, maybe into next, before they turn it around.
I think their team ERA is above 6. I mean, that's like there are slow pitch softball teams that have better ERAs than they do. I mean, they are just giving up runs left and right. And yeah, they lost Price and they lost Mookie, and
the game I don't
think that would have mattered.
Yeah, you want to get? You know what game I want to see this year? Texas versus Boston. Let's see who bores each other to death first. Neither one of them can hit.
Well, all night. It's either going to be like 1-0 or it's going to be like 19-15. You don't know which way it's going to go.
They're going to be like, screw this. We're going to put a runner on second and third to get this game over with.
Yeah.
It'd be horrible. Yeah, Boston is really surprising, especially when you play in the same division as Baltimore. You should have no excuse for that. You mentioned something about the Rays being that underdog, scrappy, we're not supposed to be there, and then all of a sudden they show up in their bad dinner jackets. Would you say the same thing about the Oakland A's?
I would. I mean, a team that doesn't have a big payroll, can't bring in the big, 7-year, $200 million contract guy that we're seeing other teams able to do, but they just develop great talent. They bring in what they need to fill out the rest, and they just got some studs in that lineup. An interesting fact, I think I saw this earlier today when I was watching the Cubs-Cardinals game. So the whole true outcomes thing.
Yeah.
Home runs, walks, strikeouts. The top 3 teams in the league in terms of the ones that have the highest percentage of true outcomes: Cubs, Rays, Athletics. And record-wise, funny enough, all 3 of them are doing very well, even though the thing with true outcome teams is they can go very cold very quickly. That's what we've seen with the Cubs. And a guy that comes to mind, Matt Olson, who I am a Matt Olson fan. I think the next time we have a 500-foot home run in the game, it's going to be off of his bat. But he had a string there where his last 7 hits were home runs, and his batting average is like 190. So I mean, the dude can get the big swing for you, but he can't do much else. And and that's part of the reason why I think a team like Oakland and the Cubs the last few years struggle in the postseason. You got to do more than hit home runs and walk. You got to hit singles. You got to move guys over. You got to do the other small things. And those are teams that can't do it. And while those 3 teams have great regular seasons, postseason-wise, hasn't quite been the same. Well, David, go real quick. Go for it.
I want to bring up 2 quick things for you. The Yankees and their health. Is New York just a triage unit of the baseball MLB? I mean, Judge is hurt again. Andujar, they're talking about putting on the IL. Yankees consistently getting these nagging injuries, but guess what? They keep playing better baseball. It just boggles my mind. They just plug in another guy and he goes to work the Yankee way. It's remarkable, but it's going to be scary if Stanton and Judge can stay healthy for a season and mesh. That's going to be brutal, man. I wouldn't stand out in the yard. I wouldn't park my car across the street from that house.
Well, and that's why I thought Aaron Boone should have been manager of the year last year. Granted, they got the massive payroll compared to what Bob Melvin and the A's had, but he didn't exactly have that payroll in the lineup.
No,
that payroll was on the DL.
Yeah.
And they were able to run away with things the way they did. Maybe that'll be the case this year for Boone, because, once again, like you said, Judge is out, Stanton with another hamstring issue. DJ LeMahieu went down for a little bit, and none of it's COVID related. It's just injury stuff, regular injury stuff,
baseball stuff.
And then they just throw someone else in there, and then they hit 2 home runs, and then they win the game 5-3 or something. But I just want to say thank you for watching us tonight. I do apologize. The internet has been flat out garbage for both of us. I don't know if it's my end or David's end or the program we're using, but the last few times we've done this, the internet's been great. Tonight, it's been a complete joke, and I know it's making it difficult to follow along. So we're not going to be on too much longer, but there's one more thing I wanted to do, David. And when we were talking about when the season started, because of the weird, we went off for 3 months or whatever and came back on, we were worried that the game of baseball was going to be played differently or look differently this year compared to what we've seen. I did some number crunching earlier because I'm on vacation and I can do this stuff.
You got free time like that.
Yeah.
Player.
Yes. So I did this a little bit earlier. I clicked on it, but it's not. There we go. So thank you, baseballreference.com. I decided to take some of the key statistics from last year and compare them to this year on a per game basis to see if there is really that much of a difference in the way baseball is being played right now. And the thing I came up with, David, was not really. Things look pretty much the same. Runs are down just a little bit compared to last year. Batting average is down probably a bit more than you would like, but look at walks. Walks are actually up. So it's kind of funny. Batting average down, walks up, runs slightly down. Strikeouts are actually down this year. It feels like some of the games you watch, there's tons of strikeouts, but they're actually down a little bit. Home runs are down just a touch. ERA, a little bit better so far this year than all of last year. Defensively, not much of an issue there. In fact, less errors being committed on a per game basis. And obviously the biggest difference is how far starting pitchers have gone in ball games. Last year, barely over 5 innings. This year, not quite getting to 5. We've seen a lot of guys, openers or just going 4 innings because of pitch counts. But I think in the grand scheme of things, David, just looking at that, baseball hasn't really changed in terms of how it's played. One big change for sure, like Corey points out, the fans not being there. You got some weird noise going on. They try to manufacture it. And I think some people were thinking that was going to change the way the game was played. Like maybe the players weren't going to be as into it because they didn't have that, the fan base to feed off of. But in the end, I don't think it's really having much of an impact on the game whatsoever. What do you think?
I don't think. And Corey has something kind of important. It's what we always feed into. Who has the best farm system in MLB? And I'm going to go along with you say the runs down. They've had you started training in February, then you stopped. You stopped cold. People said go home, don't hang around in the cities you play in, go home. So you lounge for another month, going to the cage every once in a while, throwing in the backyard every once in a while as a junior. You should have expected the numbers would be down a little bit, but it's not a great disparity. It's not a lot of people talked before it started. They said, there's going to be a lot of microwave baseballs, meaning, if you take a baseball, put it in a microwave, heat it, it's like hitting a beach ball. It just floats out. And that's what they said. It's going to be a juice ball. I haven't seen juice ball. I've seen some guys get a hold of pitch and through their own strength power out, but everything's kind of down. It's kind of an off way to start it. My biggest worry, though, is once we get to the playoffs, are you going to have enough arms to play a playoff? As small as those rosters are and how many pitchers teams are carrying, that's my biggest worry moving forward.
Well, and if you're going to have all these double headers going on as well, our guy, like how much rested guys are you going to have? You're going to see a lot of, minor leaguers And say that this year because it's a weird year. But you're going to see a lot of those guys pitching. We're seeing that right now. The Cardinals doing a lot of that, trying to play more games than days available. The Reds are going to have to do that. The Marlins are going to have to do that. Things are going to look a little different in that regard. But in the grand scheme of things, the game itself seems to be playing exactly the same way. This is a good question. I don't know. I need to look that up. The game time. And it may be kind of tough to look at because you'll have to take out the 7-inning games.
Yeah.
Because I don't know if there's a way to see how long did the 9-inning games go. Now, the extra innings, we seem to have games ending in the 10th or the 11th. I think one went to the 12th and another to the 13th. But as a whole, they're not going all that far. I don't know if as a whole we're seeing games go that much quicker. But everything else we're seeing is about the same. And to answer Corey's question real quick about those farm systems, I think the Rays I think MLB Pipeline has them at number one, and that's what's amazing about the Rays because they have it at the major league level and they still have it at the minor league level. They have found a way, regardless of where they pick, to bring in that talent. And they still have guys. They got Wander Franco down there, number one overall prospect according to the MLB Pipeline. He's a big guy. The Padres still got a great farm system too. In fact, they're so stacked they traded Luis Urias to the Brewers to try to get some more pitching. And Urias kicked the Cubs, a couple of days ago for Milwaukee. So those are the teams that I think have the best farm systems. Baltimore's is getting up there. They're starting to get a good farm system. Of course, they had the Amarillo kid they drafted, number 2 overall, Heston Kjerstad, who got placed at 68th, I believe, on the MLB Pipeline. So that's really cool. Going to keep an eye on his career there. So those are the best farm systems in the game right now. And so I think, Baltimore's on their way. They've had a pretty good season all in all, especially offensively. They got some good pieces going on there. But Tampa Bay is going to be good for a long time. The question is, can they keep these guys financially? And that's always an issue with them.
I think also we can't leave out Toronto with the BGO, Bouchel, Vlad Destroyer Jr. As they get better, they've got a young crop of players coming into them.
I love that you call him Vlad the Destroyer. I just love that.
That's his name. That's what we called him. Just like Eric the Red. You know who Eric the Red is?
Yeah, Leif Erikson's father.
Eric Davis.
Okay.
Eric.
I was thinking Vikings. I was going Vikings, man. I thought you were going history on me or something.
Los Angeles County. Eric the Red.
So good stuff, man. Well, we've had a lot of fun tonight. One more thing before we get out of here. We'd stay on a bit longer because I'm enjoying the conversation with you guys, but this internet is garbage. And I know, David, you're still cutting out. I think I'm cutting out on you as well.
Yeah.
I'm sure if you're watching, it's the same. But we have been nominated for an award. I do want to bring this up again. The Best of Amarillo 2020. We've been nominated under the podcast category, amazingly enough. And it's because of all the great work that David has done to help make this podcast a lot of fun and pump out the content. And, of course, you guys that nominated us, thank you very much. But they are voting right now for whoever wins that category. We are one of 4 podcasts nominated. So I believe I put a link in the description of the video you are watching. So if you click on that link, you'll go to the media section, find the podcast, and nominate Tom Talks Baseball. We certainly would appreciate it, and hopefully we will be #winning when all is said and done. But I think that's going to wrap it up, David. Do you have anything real quick you want to add before we get out of here?
Yeah, I did. The Major League Baseball recognized the Negro Leagues, their 100-year anniversary this month. So each week for the next part of this season, each week, I'm going to give you a little story or background on what I think is one of the best baseball leagues in the world ever, and something that I grew up hearing stories about. And so it's been a part of my culture and history. The Crawfords and the Grays and the Kansas City Monarchs. I'm thinking the Dallas team was the Texas Stars, but these teams are all over. The Negro League was actually 3 different leagues, but we always just think about the one on the Eastern Seaboard. But we're going to go back a little further than that. Moses Fleetwalker was the first African-American to play baseball professionally. He did that in, I think it was, he started his first game was May 1st of 1884 for the Toledo Blue Stockings. His last game was September 4th, 1984. Played 42 games, 263 batting average, 23 runs scored. By the end of that season, they had made a law. And if you weren't pure white, you couldn't play. The irony of it, though, is these players could go down to Mexico or South America and be treated like kings of their sport. They couldn't get that respect right here at home. So each week I'm going to tell you a little fact about the Negro League, some of the best baseball in America.
I'm looking forward to that. And speaking of that, Roberto Clemente, didn't play in the Negro League, but I heard a funny story about him because it ties to Jackie Robinson. I don't know if you heard this. So when Clemente came up in the major leagues, he was a Dodger, and there was a Rule 5 draft or something was going on where Clemente became available to other teams, but the Dodgers knew just how great he was, and they tried to hide him because they wanted him and Jackson to be, the studs of their team. But the Pirates saw through it and picked him up and grabbed Clemente. And the Dodgers, I thought that was really interesting how, you had Jackson, and then they wanted to add Clemente, who also, like Jackson and the others early on, went through more than just the trials of playing a baseball game. Having to deal with everything else that went along with it, unfortunately. But I'm looking forward to hearing about that every week. Learning someone new from the Negro Leagues who, if we could have seen them play in the major leagues, what could have been like a Josh Gibson is one that
Bell.
Yeah, like
Bell was great.
Satchel Paige, what could they have done had they played full major league careers?
The remarkable thing about Satchel Paige, he pitched up until the 1970s at the major league level. I think his last game was like 73 or 74 with the Cleveland Indians.
He was in his 50s, wasn't he?
Close to 60 when he pitched.
Yeah, I mean, that's incredible
and,
stuff.
And just Buck O'Neil, who should have been in the Hall of Fame before he died, with the KC Monarchs, tells the histories. But there's just so many players and owners and great athletes in this that it's baseball. And just because of unwritten rules written by morons, they didn't get to put their mark in the history. I joke with you about baseball. I have an AC and a BC. And that's before coloreds and after coloreds. I don't hold those guys who played only lily white baseball. Babe Ruth, yeah, but he never had to face down, Domingo with his crazy slider. You never worry about that. So sometimes I look at them as an imbalance because they weren't inclusive of everybody. That's what makes this game great. From the cities to the country, Midwest, all kids will get a stick and a ball and come together. It happens every day, and that's what makes our game great.
Yes. And indeed it is. And I look forward to learning more about the Negro Leagues and their history and their importance to the game of baseball and why we have the great athletes we do today because of what those players did back then. So that's going to be a lot of fun. But David, appreciate it, man. Let's hope that next week our internet doesn't blow chunks, and so we can actually have a show where you and I aren't stepping on each other all the time because I can't tell if you're done talking.
Yeah, I can't hear you because we're delaying here. You know what I think it might be also, and it usually happens, kids back in school, usage is up. It can sometimes slow us down a little bit. But be careful, kids. Go back and get that education. We got your back.
And while you can't call in, we don't have that ability. You can always chime in with these interactive podcasts, and that's exactly what some of you did tonight. Thank you very much for being a part of the show. dictating the show a little bit. And we will be back with you, maybe not Wednesday next week. I got some stuff going on. I'll get with you, David, and I'll keep you informed on our Facebook page, Tom Talks Baseball Podcast, Twitter.
Hey, Corey, thank you for tuning in, man. Great question.
Thank you, Corey. Thank you, Tristan, for checking us out. Everyone else. Also, Twitter at Tom Talks BVP. And you can rewatch these if you missed the beginning or the end on our Facebook and on the Tom Talks Baseball Podcast YouTube channel. David, have a good one, man.
One quick thing. And you can catch us at 9:30 on Sunday nights on 97.5, 710 a.m. KGNC at 9. Every Sunday night, starting at 9 p.m., we come on with the Tom Talks Baseball. Be a part of the fun, man. It's about you guys. We really appreciate you.
Yes, and thumbs up indeed. Thank you, Chance, for checking us out. Hopefully we can find something that the internet didn't mess up here, and we can put a show together for you this week on the radio. But everyone have a good night. We will talk to you again next week with the Tom Talks Baseball Podcast. I'm Tom Young. That's it. Yeah. There you go. That's David Lovejoy. Yeah, we're still stepping on each other. Damn internet. Talk to you later. Have a good one.